Karen versus the Neighborhood, a story of HOA tyranny, pettiness, and well-deserved downfall. My name's David. My wife and I moved into a quiet suburban neighborhood a few years ago. It wasn't fancy, but it was clean, peaceful, and most importantly, safe for our two kids to ride their bikes. There was just one catch: the HOA. Most of the time, HOAs are harmless enough, collecting dues, mowing shared lawns, keeping the pool clean. But our HOA was run by one woman who made it her personal kingdom: Karen. Karen wasn't elected. She wasn't chosen. She just took over. Years before we moved in, she volunteered to handle the paperwork, bullied the few actual board members into quitting, and then declared herself president for life. If you've ever dealt with an HOA Karen, you know the type. She lived to nitpick, to control, to make rules nobody asked for. Her house was directly across from the playground, giving her a front row seat to neighborhood surveillance. And she wielded that position like a tyrant. Karen's reign of terror had already become legend by the time we arrived. She fined a family $50 because their Halloween pumpkin rotted on the porch too long. She forced an elderly man to repaint his fence because she didn't like the shade of brown. She shut down a kid's lemonade stand for operating without a permit. She sent threatening letters if you left your trash can out an hour past pickup. The best part? None of this was actually in the HOA bylaws. She just made things up, slapped the HOA's letterhead on them, and hoped no one questioned her. And it worked, because most people just sighed and paid the fines to avoid conflict. But not me. It started with my mailbox. Our mailbox was black, standard issue, same as everyone else's. But one morning, I found a letter taped to it. Violation notice. Mailbox paint is dull and fading. Must be repainted to meet neighborhood standards. $25 fine. I stared at it in disbelief. My mailbox looked identical to the 5 others on the street. I walked over, compared them. Same black paint, same wear. I knocked on my neighbor Tom's door. "Did you get one of these?" He shook his head. "Nope, just you." That's when I realized Karen had picked me as her new target. Within weeks, the letters piled up. My grass was half an inch too long. My kids' bikes were left visible in the driveway. My wife's flower garden was too colorful and clashed with the neighborhood palette. She even tried to fine us $100 because we put up a basketball hoop for our kids. I'd had enough. I went to the HOA bylaws, which Karen assumed no one ever read, and discovered something beautiful. She was breaking her own rules. The HOA required elections every 2 years. None had happened in at least 6. Major decisions had to be approved by the board, but there was no board, just Karen. Fines had to follow a specific appeals process. She'd skipped all of it. She wasn't just a bully. She was a fraud, and I was going to take her down. Taking down a Karen requires patience. You can't just scream at her. That only makes you look bad. You need to let her hang herself with her own rope. I started collecting evidence. Every bogus fine, every letter, every email. I got neighbors to share theirs too. Turns out almost everyone had a Karen story, but they'd been too afraid to fight her. Then I dug deeper. HOA finances, which by law had to be shared with residents upon request. At first, she ignored me. When I pushed, she finally handed over sloppy spreadsheets. And oh, the things they revealed. She was charging administrative fees that had no explanation. HOA dues had gone up 20% in the last 2 years, but community projects hadn't changed. She'd hired her cousin for lawn care at double the market rate. Fraud, embezzlement, abuse of power. I had everything I needed. The next HOA meeting was in the community clubhouse. Usually, only a handful of people showed up, but this time, I made sure every single neighbor came. Karen strutted in with her binder, sunglasses perched on her head like a crown. "Let's begin," she said, smug as ever. "First order of business, new restrictions on holiday decorations." "Actually," I interrupted, "first order of business is your removal." The room went dead silent. Karen blinked. "Excuse me?" I stood, holding up the stack of papers I'd collected. "You've been issuing fines without due process. You've refused to hold elections. You've mismanaged HOA funds, all of which are violations of the bylaws." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Karen's face went red. "That's a lie," I smiled. "Then explain why you paid your cousin $15,000 for lawn care last year when the going rate is half that, or why you've been cashing administrative fees into your personal account." The gasps were delicious. Karen sputtered. You can't prove." Oh, but I can. I pulled out copies of the bank statements she'd signed, and so can everyone else in this room. Neighbors began shouting, "She fined me for my Christmas lights!" She made my daughter cry over chalk drawings. She threatened to tow my car for parking in my own driveway. The tide had turned. By the end of the meeting, the neighborhood voted unanimously to remove Karen from the HOA. She tried to fight it, of course, threatened lawsuits, sent nasty emails. But we documented everything. When she called the police to claim we were harassing her, the officer actually laughed. Within weeks, Karen's power crumbled. Her bogus fines were revoked. Her cousin's contract was canceled. Elections were held, and a new board, an actual board, was put in place. Karen, stripped of her crown, became just another neighbor, except no one wanted anything to do with her anymore. The best part? With her antics exposed, word spread fast. Other neighborhoods she'd tried to boss around caught wind. Her reputation as the HOA tyrant grew. Soon, she couldn't bully anyone. People ignored her. Stores she'd thrown tantrums in banned her. She went from queen bee to neighborhood outcast. And me? I was elected HOA president, not because I wanted power, but because everyone trusted me not to abuse it. My first act? Abolish half of Karen's ridiculous rules and bring back some sanity. Life in the neighborhood became peaceful again. Kids played basketball. Families decorated for holidays. No one lived in fear of petty fines. As for Karen, she spent most of her time peeking out her window, watching the life she used to control slip away. The sight of her fuming on her porch while kids rode bikes past her house without a care? That was the sweetest revenge of all. Like and subscribe. Share if this happened to you or someone you know.